Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube. Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! INDY! A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Renew now, drives in low, throws up a shot. It doesn't go. Tipped up and in by Anthony Leal. Indiana takes the lead.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard for Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. Thank you so much for being with us. As always, we greatly appreciate you, no matter how and where you're listening.
Welcome.
Good
to
friends
Indiana
down in
Sports-
Evansville or up in Hammond and Chicago on the voice of the region, WJOB, as well as Fort Wayne's only sports station, 1380 The Fan. Hope everybody's having a good day. This weather has been unbelievably spectacular. It's July. I cannot believe it. Yesterday, another great day, and the final day of Big Ten football media days as it wrapped up. Kurt Signetti, one of those on the final day, speaking, of course, was on Indiana Sports Beat Radio yesterday with us. Grateful to have him on, and as well as players, Justin Ellison, Miss Aiden Fisher, and Mike Kadick, of course. And I learned some things watching everything. Those guys were also on the Big Ten Network, and I did not know or ever imagine that Mike Kadick, the big offensive lineman, former right guard, now center for Indiana, is a former ballerina and ice skater. And people may laugh at that, but I'll tell you that has probably served him very, very well. Because there was a guy named Ty Murray who is one of the if not the all-time greatest cowboy in the history of professional rodeo, who also early in his life did gymnastics, as well as Mike Kadick did gymnastics as well as the ballerina stuff. It gives you great balance, incredible balance that you can use later in your athletic career. But I don't think anyone's going to be teasing Big Mike Kadick about that anytime soon. But just the funny things you learn as you go along in life and learn that the things are not always just quite as they seem. So welcome aboard. Appreciate you being with us. Looking forward to talking to Zach Osterman today, as well as Patrick Wooley. We'll talk some IU basketball. We'll hear more from the Big Ten football media days. Indiana basketball going to be hosting Marian University and Pat Knight in an exhibition game this year. So we'll talk about that, get your input, your thoughts about that as well. The Big Ten football championship, we have mentioned, remaining in Indianapolis for the next 4 years at least, through 2028. But Tony Petitti, the commissioner of the Big Ten, did mention that with the growth that it will most likely, you will still see this moving around at some point, which not a surprise. But man, again, with the media days going on there, it just shows why Lucas Oil is just such a great venue. And Indianapolis is such a great town to host. There's none better. Clear Creek, Mason, appreciate you, bro. How are you, sir? Joining us from right close by, not far away at all. Patrick Wooley will talk some IU basketball. Join us. Zach Osterman will talk of various things about what all is going on. Scholarship limits. With the House case, you've heard a lot about this House case being settled. there are so many parts of this. I need to get Michael Mangarelli back on here because there are so many parts to this, and it included is this change in scholarship limits. And for football, it has always been 85, and then you fill that in with, up to probably 25, 30 walk-ons, which cost the school nothing. Now they're not going to be able to do that. The limit is going to be moved to upwards of 105 to 110 in scholarship players, but no walk-ons. And the coaches are not happy about that. And I get it, because if you have only scholarship players, those guys that would normally be on the walk-ons on the scout team per se, doing kind of grunt work, it's going to be harder to get scholarship players doing that type of work that it takes to have a successful program and not have, you want to talk about more turnover? That's going to create more turnover, in my opinion. You're just going to have more guys that, oh, well, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I'm getting out of here. Less continuity. I'm not sure what that gains. It may lose. But we'll talk about that more with Zach and Patrick as well. The Canadian coach, I talked earlier in the week about the Olympic scandal, and I chuckle because I don't understand this. Canada, the women's soccer, they're the reigning gold medal champion. And they got caught cheating before the Olympics started by flying a drone over New Zealand's practice. And now it's coming out, new information, that the Canadian coach likely knew about that. And of course, that coach had been sent home. But why? You're I guess it's the same thing with Bill Belichick and New England. They did the very same thing. They are at the top of their game, and yet you really wonder, are they at the top of their game because they're cheating? Because why would the team that or a program that is the best be cheating? So that's not the first time. You didn't just come up with this. I would not imagine. Same for New England. That wasn't the first time they did anything. It's just the first time they got caught. So, yeah, it's just crazy stuff, man. Yeah, Brian says it's funny. The kind of true that. Brian says funny, the Canadian soccer team has a drone, but not the Secret Service. Bing, bang, zip. That's a pointed point, a good one at that. Mike says happy Friday to all. We'll talk about IU football records, predictions. Philip, yeah, basketball to 15 scholarship players. They'll move from 13 to 15. Now, is it going to be the same? I'm not sure yet. I haven't seen enough information. Are walk-ons going to be eliminated from basketball? That's huge, because you're talking about a smaller number to start with. So if you've got 13 scholarship players and you had 5 walk-ons, most teams end up with 17 to 18 players. That is needed for practice. For good, solid practice. Injuries, when injuries hit. Man, if you've got 15 guys and you start losing a couple due to injury or whatnot, practice becomes difficult. And so I'm not sure where we're headed with that. But I don't know that it's the right direction. Kind of crazy. So Yeah, a lot of people on the Andy Moore Honda hotline talking about Indiana's football predictions. To me, there's no way this team does not hit 6 wins. And I know that is a bold statement because we're talking Indiana football. It doesn't matter. I still see the wins on the schedule for what I think this team is going to be like. And every time I see Curt Cignetti speak, including with us yesterday on the show, I doubt that less. It would do him no good to go out there and he's not spouting off, but he's just being open and honest about what he sees, what he feels, what he knows can happen, what he expects to happen. Now, every coach expects to win. It doesn't matter who they are, or at least they say that. I don't know that they always really believe that. The coach speak, there's a reason they call it coach speak. It's BS half the time. Curt Cignetti, he's not, that's not him. He's a competitor. He is, I think he speaks the truth when he talks. I don't think he's speaking in what he would like to see. I think it's more about what he genuinely and sincerely expects to see from what he knows. Now, a couple things came out of Big Ten football media days. I asked him before we went on about naming the quarterback, timing. He's like, oh, I haven't really even thought about that. And then just due to later comments, it's an easy conclusion. I can tell you right now and guarantee you the starter is going to be Curtis Rourke. Hands down, no question. Again, watching him with the folks on the Big Ten Network, he talked about Curtis Rourke having won a lot of football games, done a lot of things, this and that, all these positives. And then he talked about Taven Jackson, said, oh, Taven's improved a bunch. He's playing well. He's got some things he needs to continue to improve on. So that just further solidified. Your starting quarterback for Indiana football, without question, is going to be Curtis Rourke. He is going to be leading this offense. And I think that Curt Cignetti is very comfortable with him because he's a very experienced player, as we've said. He's played in a lot of games. He's a fifth-year guy. Hell, he's going to be married when the season is underway. So he's a very mature guy. And that's what Curt Cignetti is looking for right now. He talked about that they have had success with 4 different guys at quarterback being player of the year, their last 4 at JMU, and all different. They were a running quarterback, an athletic type, a throwing quarterback, and a couple that were in between. All of them quarterbacks of the year and all different. So it shows that he also does some things that a lot of coaches don't do, and that is bend a system towards the players that you have, which I think that is always an outstanding thing to do because that shows flexibility and doesn't make you so rigid. So had a great day after Big Ten Media Days yesterday out at Indianapolis. As you see, I'm sporting the Indianapolis Motor Speedway logo on my shirt. Thanks to Dave First, an old friend. We were interns together at WLKY in Louisville way back in the day under Fred Calgill, former sports director who is now just recently retired there and has taken over heading the Jeffersonville High School's radio and TV program. But Fred got that put together. It's great seeing people like Andrew Chernoff from Indianapolis, Keith Farmer from down in Lexington. Just a great get-together, and it was able to play the course yesterday at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And, man, that's not an easy course. It's a Pete Dye course, people. But a great day nonetheless. Got to go out on the track. We did a few laps, kissed the bricks, did the whole experience. It was kind of cool. But we've got lots more coming up. Patrick Wooley's going to join us. In addition to Zac Osterman, we'll talk some hoops, some football, and whatever else you'd like to get into. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
This segment is brought to you by the Rusty Gator.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Ravesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order.
This segment is brought to you by Hoosier Hanks East.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. Looking forward to the weekend, and Patrick Wooley joining us from thehoosier.com and has been covering college basketball for the Hoosier.com for a while now. Patrick, kind of a slow time to college basketball, although that is just going to be a short hiatus, as most of the teams they're already going at it. Football, however, which is the next sport, they don't start practice for another week probably, but it's odd that basketball is already going at it.
Well, you could kind of say this is like the dog days of summer here, but there's plenty going on. Basketball never really sleeps or takes a break nowadays, so there's action behind the scenes for sure.
Absolutely, and Indiana practicing and getting their team together, which is a brand new team of sorts, as is Purdue and everyone else. Something that I was talking about earlier is with this new house versus NCAA case that recently settled. One of the things that is in there are scholarship limits, something about scholarship limits, and men's basketball could be looking at going from 13 to 15 scholarships, where football is going to go from 85 to like 105, but no more walk-ons. Is that going to be the same for basketball with the elimination of walk-ons?
Well, I think it kind of the 15, the 2 extra scholarships that might hurt a few mid majors. That might make some of these P5 guys, take notice and take a couple more guys or take a couple flyers on these kids, and then sort of those mid majors are, sadly kind of being weeded out or looked at as sort of like a minor league system, to where a guy goes there for a year or two and then maybe he can advance or move on up. So that's kind of the direction I see it going right now.
Yeah, and I'd have to find out for sure what that has to do with if there are going to be walk-ons allowed in basketball still or not, because that I mentioned earlier, that's huge for football and basketball when it comes to practice, because of injuries and this, that, and the other thing. It doesn't matter. Coaches love having bodies, and any reduction in bodies is a detriment in their eyes, at least.
I would think there would be walk-ons. I mean, I don't see a scenario where it hurts the P5 schools, and they're the ones kind of making the rules right now, and the big boys on the block. So I would venture to say there's still going to be a walk-on or two.
Well, it's just I don't know what the rule is for football. That it eliminates walk-ons, and it will keep them with just scholarship players. Of course, the numbers are vastly different. You're talking 105, 110 versus 15. I understand that, but still, injuries. We've seen teams, Indiana included, that get hit at times with guys 3, sometimes 4 guys out. Well, that would make practice very, very difficult for teams if you ended up having that many guys out.
It would. Like I said, I think there'll still be a couple. You get a couple extra scholarships for guys that maybe would have been walk-ons before. So, it'll work itself out and it'll all be right.
What right now, what is everyone looking forward to as far as college basketball, with it being such a quiet time? Everyone's practicing, waiting for the season to begin, which is months away yet. And nothing really is going to be happening as far of note, I guess, per se.
Well, people, they always love recruiting, and recruiting is definitely going on right now. You got kids getting ready to go on official visits. You've got these AAUs basically over. You got a couple little camps or all-star showcases going on the next couple weeks, but like I said, recruitment never sleeps. These kids like Braylon Mullins, Malachi Moreno, they're going to be taking their IU visits here. Purdue's going to have some kids coming up. So, it's still a big time, and everybody likes to look forward to the future for sure.
Absolutely. And several recruits in Indiana getting visits from, a lot of them coming in September, with all 3, Braylon Mullins, Trent Sisley, and Malachi Moreno coming together that September weekend of the 20th. Jalen Harrelson, I forget when his visit is, but his visit is set as well.
Yeah, he's definitely, IU is definitely in the mix for him, no doubt about it.
What do you think the likelihood of? I don't see Indiana landing all 3 of the Indiana Elite guys, not for any specific reason other than
that would be a home
numbers.
run, wouldn't it? That would be what IU fans would really be looking forward to.
Yeah, well, there'd be a dream scenario for fans in addition to Jalen Harrelson, but then I wonder what is too much with freshman recruits in today's game now that has just changed within the last few years, with the ability to go get a senior transfer instead of having an incoming freshman.
Well, that's why Woody and the staff, that's why they get paid the big bucks, right? They make those decisions. So Yeah, Indiana's pretty. They got a nice NIL budget they can work with. So the question is, do you want to go all in on 3 or 4 freshmen? Do you want to go all in with 1 or 2 and then pick up 2 or 3 in the transfer portal? No, I know Hoosier fans, they'll say, okay, we want our hometown kids. We want the Indiana boys, and we'll work with them and we'll build them up. I don't know if it works like that in college basketball anymore, but it certainly would be fun for the viewer and the Indiana fan to see those local boys suit up in the cream and crimson.
Yeah, I know the fans would love that. Then you add Jalen Harrelson into that mix, and so that makes.
Yeah, I consider him an Indiana boy. So he is an Indiana kid. So I'm gonna throw him in the mix.
Yeah, so there are 4. Which there are more guys, but there are 4 core guys that they are really going after hard. And I don't see all 4 of them being landed by Indiana, just again, from a number standpoint, but there's nothing to say it cannot happen because other programs have been able to get this done. And maybe the fact of one or the other coming draws someone else. Especially with the Indiana elite guys. I think that is something that could happen with whether it's Braylon Mullins coming or Trent Sisley coming and Malachi Moreno, especially with him, because there's no way he is not looking at Indiana in a very high light because of what has happened with Trace Jackson-Davis, with Kalel Ware, and most likely Umar Ballo after he leaves.
Well, look, these kids have grown up playing with and against each other. Moreno, Sisley, Mullins, they were with Indiana Elite this year. They're very familiar with each other's game. It's not out of the realm that they actually pull this off and do this. I think it's Indiana's in as good a position as anybody for that to happen.
5 Left thinks that IU is definitely getting Mullins. He says he can tell because IU was not in the remaining schools for Kean Anthony or Malik Thomas.
Well, that's reading behind the scenes, isn't it? That's reading into something.
Yeah. Well, it's but he's looking. I get it. Looking at who's going where, and when you've already known that certain guys have been eliminated for a spot that you would be competing for. But I don't know that there's a lean. I can't say that any of these players have a lean. I really don't. A lot of times you can get that sense or, you hear certain things. That's not the case with Trent Sisley or Malachi Moreno or Jalen Harrelson for me. Mullins has been a long time. Has been sought after by Indiana for a long time. But if you look at his final 10, it's UCLA may be the only blue blood who's not in there. But everybody else on the planet is UConn, Kansas, Duke, North Carolina. I'm just going off the cuff and trying to remember. Kentucky in there? I don't remember.
They are.
Yep. But it was 10 schools. It was, the who's who of college basketball. Indiana and Purdue in there. I've mentioned several of them. So,
well, let me just say, I know these kids. I know their families pretty well. Indiana is in a very good position, along with a couple others. If they want to land all 3 or 4 of these, they are in as good a position as anybody else out there. So that's what I'm going to say and leave it at.
Michigan and Notre Dame are 2 schools that I see as being a future battle for Indiana for recruits going forward, because obviously Dusty May at Michigan and Notre Dame's coach Micah Shrewsbury, 2 more Indiana guys.
Sure.
Then you've got, of course, Matt Painter, an Indiana guy at Purdue. You've got Mike Woodson, currently an Indiana guy at Indiana. You've got all these Indiana guys that have all these Indiana connections now. It's already been tough recruiting in the state of Indiana because they produce so much talent, and every team, as you can see around, doesn't matter. They're coming for these great players, whether it's Kansas, UConn, Duke, whomever. And so now you add in a Michigan and a Notre Dame who have legit shots. Notre Dame has not really been a big time player. I mean, they've gotten decent recruits, but they're not usually getting the top guys. That could change with Micah Shrewsbury. He is going to undoubtedly be successful at Notre Dame, an Indianapolis guy from Jeffersonville originally. But again, these Indiana connections, it matters greatly.
It does, and they're going to get their share. But I feel like Indiana University is still the name brand, and with today's NIL being a basketball-centered school, I still feel like Indiana is in good position with most of the kids they want. Now, I know Brady Kaler out of Cathedral, he listed his top 5 the other day. Notre Dame is in it, and I believe they're absolutely in the mix for him. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go there. So they're going to get their fair share of kids, just like Purdue. But when it comes to kind of, quote, throwing the bank at some of these boys, I think Indiana's in a good position.
Yeah, a lot of the folks on Andy Moore Honda Hotline giving their opinions. He thinks that Mullins is 99% to IU, that Sisley is a 50-50 shot, and I agree with that. Moreno, 50-50 shot. That's probably true because of the Kentucky draw, just because it's so close to home for him. But with, like I said, Mike Woodson's proven track record of getting these big guys to the league and getting them there quickly, and with what is going on with Khalil Ware right now at Miami in the Summer League, he has been a shining star. So, and that is coming off of a tenure at Oregon that didn't go well, where he was called as someone who didn't have a motor, didn't work hard, yada, yada. Well, now he's an NBA player a year removed from that stuff.
Yeah, he was kind of on the way to disappearing over there at Oregon. He was a McDonald's All-American, and then kind of had a below par freshman year for what was expected, and was just kind of on the verge of, is this kid going to disappear? What's going to happen? He comes over to IU, and all of a sudden he's a top 20 draft pick looking good in the Summer League. So definitely bodes well for IU. I will say with Moreno, I feel like it's Indiana, Kentucky, 50-50. That's kind of how I see it as well.
Yeah, and I think that Indiana may have it might be 51-49. Sure. And the reason I say that is because had there not been a change at Kentucky and Calipari was still there, it may be the other way, just a tick, but it's not. You've got a brand new coach who does not have a track record of putting guys in the NBA. He definitely does not have a track record of putting big guys in the NBA. So I think Indiana has just a slight edge there. And if Indiana were to get Mullins, that may be also another nickel in the piggy bank for Indiana in trying to get the services of Mr. Moreno.
See, what it sounds like to me is once one domino drops, like a Mullins, then some of these other dominoes are going to fall into place. So it kind of depends on, I'm not going to put it all on him, but, the first kid to commit, then the other ones are like, okay, well, let's do this thing.
We'll see about that. Brian mentioned some of the other recruits that IU are hitting after, which are all big-time players. Bryson Tiller, a 5-star, Nate Ament, Eric Ribe, Mikael Brown, who we saw on the AAU circuit this summer, Chris Senack, and Kean Anthony. But someone also says that Anthony does not have Indiana.
Yeah, he just listed his final 10, and Indiana's not in there.
Which kind of amazing not to make a final 10, but
with the Woodson connection to his dad.
But but it's good to get it over with. See, I prefer that to, no matter what, to know, like, okay, great. I think that should be more. I don't think there should be a final 10. That's a ridiculous number to me. There's no way that your interests are really that wide. I know that these kids can take a lot more visits now. So maybe there's some of that, but even with that, I don't think these guys want to go to all these different places. But I guess they feel they owe it to themselves to check it all out.
No, but I will tell you, someone like Braylon Mullins put out his top 10, and there's a couple schools not listed, like Arkansas, and they make a phone call the day afterwards. They see that maybe they up the NIL, and then all of a sudden, okay, he gets a visit. It's just kind of I wouldn't hardly count anyone out until it's official and everybody's signed.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. And with Moreno in Kentucky, Pope needs some big hits. He needs to land some guys like that. And for him to lose Malachi Moreno, that would be a hit, because you've got a guy that lives right down the road. Yeah, especially to IU. He's right in your backyard, literally, living in Georgetown, which is just east of Lexington. So not only does he need to get the results, he needs to not lose the big time recruits.
Yeah, and I think it helps that Mark was a big back when he played and when they won the title in '96, so he can kind of sell on, I can teach bigs, I know what to do with bigs, so he can kind of sell that angle a little bit. And don't forget, Mullins is still in the mix with Kentucky, so they're thinking the same thing maybe as IU. We're going to get a package deal with these guys. So,
yeah, I'm not seeing the Mullins to Kentucky thing. It's like I said, you've got a new coach there who, I don't want to say he's unproven. He had a great year last year, but it's still, I'm not feeling that. Hell, I'd see him. I could see him going to a number of other schools before Kentucky. I mean, UConn.
UConn is a major player. Like if I had to put a number on it or a likelihood, I'd say IU, UConn, maybe a couple more. Duke. You just can't hardly drop Duke and say no to Duke. You know what I mean? With the connections they have, Duke is going to be in that mix of the Final Five. Now, whether he goes there or not, we'll see. But I like what UConn's bringing to the table for him, and they're definitely a player.
Absolutely, and Indiana will continue to roll as they get the because all these guys, from what I've seen, want to make their decisions this fall by the early signing period.
There's a couple of them that would like to see how IU starts out the season, how the first half of the season looks, which tells me, yeah, they're really interested and they're really looking at IU. They just want to see how this season starts out for them.
But though all of those guys have all said that they want to make their decision by the early November signing period.
I mean, they want to. Maybe that's ideal, but I wouldn't say that's a certainty.
Well, nothing's, you can guarantee one thing. Nothing's a certainty. That's the only guarantee. So I think that getting a decision earlier is better for Indiana fans. To get these guys going longer would probably make it more, I don't want to say unlikely, but less likely.
I mean, if we're just talking here, what if Indiana gets off to a slow start with some of these guys? Where's his future? What's he doing? What's IU looking at this year? Would he be on the hot seat? I mean, if they don't start off very good, there's a lot of ifs. College basketball is always changing. It's a year-to-year sport now, man. It's tough out there.
Absolutely, and there is absolute question as to what Indiana is going to get done this year. But with the talent that they have loaded up with, it's going to be a little surprising for them not to be what they are projected to be, one of the favorites to win the Big Ten. Now, I will say, when I say one of the favorites, one of more than two, there are multiple teams this year. I think there's going to be great parity in that league with Indiana, with Purdue. They still have a solid team. They're not they are without Zach Edey, obviously, and that is going to be a major change for them. And I think it's going to be the difference between them winning the games that they won last year and losing this year to some teams, because you're not going to have a guy that can just dominate people. It's Zach Edey was the Andre the Giant of college basketball. There was just one of him, and that's a freak happening. And if people don't want to acknowledge that, that's fine. I don't care, because it was, and it's going to change things. But it's not just them; it's Michigan. I think Michigan's going to surprise some people. Dusty May is going to work his butt off and have Michigan in a lot better position than people think. Michigan State, always a player. Illinois, seemingly always a player. Ohio State is on the rise. So, man, I think this is going to be an exciting year in the Big Ten.
Man, it's hard to say this now and remember, but don't forget about like a UCLA or an Oregon.
Exactly. I always accidentally, because I'm not used to them being in the Big Ten. UCLA, exactly. You add to that mix. So now we're looking at 5, 6.
I mean, I just don't want to forget. I just don't want to forget someone like Rutgers, who brought in 2 of the top 3 or 4 incoming freshmen this year too. You know, it's not like they're gonna go on a huge run, but they're going to be a contender. They're going to be in the mix. You know, they can beat some people and jump up on someone.
Yeah, but can a team that like Rutgers, who the absolute brought in some great talent, but is that talent going to be able to challenge the veteran guys like, say, that Purdue has, the veteran guards they have, the veterans like Trey Kaufman-Renn and Caleb Furst? They've got veterans. Michigan, you've got Vladimir Golden, 7 foot. He is a veteran player. Indiana is stocked full of veteran players, and they're stocked full of guards that are players that are already projected in next year's NBA draft with Malachi or with Mackenzie Mbako and I believe Miles Rice.
Yeah, but man, when you go on the road and conference play, anything can happen. I believe Rutgers beat Purdue last year at home. So it's one of those things where you go on the road and conference play in the Big Ten, you're not guaranteed anything. Let me throw it like, I'm not sure when the last time Indiana has won at Wisconsin. I'm not sure what Wisconsin has back this year, but
it's been.
Are they gonna? You know, that's another game. It's been a long time. I was probably in grade school at that time.
And that's one of the crazy stats there is in sports. It truly is. It's mind-boggling, because there's been a couple of times where it should have ended. A couple of years ago, they had a 21-point lead at Wisconsin and coughed that up and to lose that game. But yeah, that's something I know IU fans hate to see, but that's something that has to be ended. That's something that has to be ended.
Sure,
you can't
why not this year, right?
Well, yeah, but a program like Indiana cannot have streaks like that against teams. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Kentucky or Duke, much less Wisconsin. You can't have streaks where you lose 30-something straight games to a program. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I don't know what to say, but it's a reality. I mean, until they stop it, they haven't won there in 20-some years. So,
no doubts. What's up next? What are you looking at forward to? What's coming out next in the Hoosier?
Oh man, well, we got a Battle of the Bridges All-Star game coming up. I believe Moreno is going to be a part of. It's an Indiana-Kentucky event. Mullins should be down there. It's on August 3rd down at Mid-America Center in Louisville. I'm going to be coaching the 2025 group, so we're going to should be some good talent and a fun time down there. It's it's like 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, all these games, like all the all-stars, all the best players. So that'll be fun to be a part of. Of course, we got our Courtside Indiana podcast every week with some of our guys. Make sure to listen to that. I'm involved in the erasports.biz.com. We just dropped the 2027 rankings. We're gonna work on the 26s. So man, I got my plate full and I got my hands full and just about everything going on right now.
With the Battle of the Bridges, I would expect that New Albany's Noah Washington will be involved in that.
Noah will be involved in that. He'll be in the ninth grade to B game. There's some good talent coming up. It's not just the 25 class that's good. There's some good things coming this way.
Well, looking forward to it as always, and looking forward to the content in the Hoosier.com as well.
Absolutely.
And keep up with it. Patrick Wooley, appreciate you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You betcha. Hey, we've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Ugly Grouper, the place to be on Anna Maria Island, Florida. Make sure you stop in and tell them Indiana Sports Beats sent you.
This segment is brought to you by the Rusty Gator.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf Community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Freethink Apparel.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. Glad to have you with us. Appreciate you being along for the ride, and hope you had a great week and are looking forward to the weekend. I know I am. Cannot wait to just relax. Man, yesterday was a long, long day. Started early and went all day with the Big Ten Media Days completing themselves after 3 days, and the new teams involved in there as well. Several people getting to talk and see what was going on with everyone. And the crazy thing with we haven't really talked about Deshaun Foster
from UCLA when he spoke at the Big Ten Media Days. You always talk about winning the press conference. Well, there was a headline in one of the places where I was reading this, and it just simply says, UCLA head football coach Deshaun Foster loses the press conference. And he was called a man of few words. His formal introduction as Chip Kelly's replacement was very short on substance, and it was very eye-catching by a lot of people. He began his opening statement in typical coach speak, expressing the usual excitement and platitudes about being UCLA's head coach and its start to this fall as a member of the Big Ten Conference. Now, you have to notice that Deshaun Foster has not only not been a head coach before, not been a coordinator. Have you heard of that happening in any recent times, and how did that go? And for that very reason alone, that has now elevated my thoughts to Indiana on a path to a 6-0 start in this college football season, because UCLA is looking less like a daunting challenge than it would normally be. And it was crazy. After the other day when Deshaun Foster was speaking, after he said those few things that I just mentioned, he froze. And he mentioned UCLA's location in Los Angeles. And as if people didn't know that. He followed it up with, I'm sure you guys don't know too much about UCLA and our football program, but we're in LA. It's us and USC. I'm just basically excited, really. That's it. Any questions? I'm like, wait, what just happened? I mean, this is a Big Ten coach on one of the biggest stages that there is. And you want to talk about deer in the headlights? Well, that should be great news for Indiana fans, like I said, because when UCLA plays Indiana this fall, that's going to be Indiana's third game of the season. It will be UCLA's second game. So things are just continuing to add up in a positive direction for Indiana football. I'm telling you, hey, I say it like I feel. If something sucks, I say it sucks. If it's great, I say it's great. And I think Indiana football is, without question, at the doorstep of a potential monumental season because, well, first of all, because it could be monumental as compared to Indiana's past success. But the fact that you've got a new coach, a new it's just everything is new. Almost not a completely new league, but a new league, new league members, and new challenges. But also new things like not having to play in the Big Ten East, so not having not having to start out against another Big Ten opponent. So there's so many positives for this team. Indiana is going to shock some people. I'm telling you right now. A lot of people think Kurt Cignetti is a little arrogant. I don't know what the words are. He just seems extraordinarily confident in what he is doing, and I think that he has great reason to be. And just watch how he speaks. I'm sure there's a little arrogance in there along with that confidence, but man, social media pounded on Deshaun Foster, though. He said, if there isn't a UCLA football, we're in LA, any questions shirt, then we have failed as a society. Oh, we're in LA. Hence the LA part of UCLA. That stands for University of California at Los Angeles. Maybe Deshaun Foster doesn't know that. Maybe someone should tell him that. But and then another media member said, today I learned that UCLA is, in fact, located in Los Angeles. It's nuts. And go check that out and listen to it. It's just wild for a coach of that stature to end up in that position. But hey, we've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Zach Osterman is going to join us next, and we're back with all that and more right after this. In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. The Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie Island, Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf Community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by the Fresh Fork in Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. Hope you had a great week, ready for the weekend. And Zach Osterman of the Indy Star, Indiana Sports Beat writer, joining us now. Zach, how are you, sir?
Hey, how you doing?
Cannot complain, man. It is it's Friday, so that always makes things very, very, very happy. So, but we just wrapped up 3 days of Big Ten football media days, and a lot to unpack, a lot going on. Of course, the addition of the 4 West Coast teams, one of which
two of which on Indiana's schedule, Washington and UCLA. I was talking just a bit ago about Deshaun Foster and UCLA and his kind of seeming meltdown at the podium, which may be a great sign for Indiana if he is kind of seeming like a deer in the headlights situation there, but or maybe he's just a nervous speaker. But that was kind of an odd situation.
You just got to do what Loxley did a few years ago. Lox got up there in Maryland. It might have been the first year that the media days were in Indy. It was one of them, and Lox got up there, and there was nobody from the Maryland press corps, because I think Emily Giambalvo from the Post was covering the Olympics or swimming world championships or something. And Lox gets through his opening statement, and they call for questions, and there's just crickets. And he goes, "Nothing for me. My job's easy." And he just walks off the stage. He just said, "Then I'm done. That's what you got to do."
Yeah, he was ahead of the game there. I think Deshaun Foster, having not been a head coach, not being a coordinator anywhere, this is a lot bearing on him. Especially he's in the major market of Los Angeles, so I'm sure he may hear about that when he gets back there. But to me, that makes it a positive for IU football fans, because I keep talking about this potential path to 6-0 for Indiana, which I know it's crazy talk, but UCLA is kind of the linchpin of that. And man, they're a completely new team as well, new coach, but their coach has not been a head coach, as I said. He doesn't have that experience, so he doesn't have a staff that's been with him between 6 and 10 years positions. Indiana is looking to be in a better position with every day that passes.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard to know, because I wasn't there for Sean Foster, but I was sitting there listening to Jed Fish, and I was like, wow, man, like, that's a lot you got going on there. Something like one starter returning and 40 something new players. And listen, Indiana's the same way. Obviously, Indiana was able to retain a handful of starters, but go to the offensive side of the ball. Indiana might start 2 guys that started last year. Defensive side of the ball, probably no more than 4 or 5. I'm guessing maybe not even that many. So if you were a UCLA fan or a Washington fan or a Nebraska fan, you'd probably be looking at Indiana saying, wow, that might be a game that we can win, because look how much turnover they've had. And the difference obviously for Indiana is you have a head coach that is a very experienced, has an extensive track record of success doing what we're talking about here. And the message that I thought Cignetti really hammered yesterday was there's no reason in his mind it won't happen again now. That a lot of new coaches, and I know it's the portal era. I know you can turn things around faster, but a lot of new coaches will still say, "Oh, give me time. Let me get my guys. Let me get my feet under the table, and I'll recruit well, and we'll develop. And then, year 3, that's when we'll really go after it." Cignetti is, very much, and the impression I get from talking to his players is his message to them was the same, was pretty direct. It was, "I'm here to win. We're going to win. If you're not prepared to be a part of that, we'll move on." Just kind of this feeling that, I think his message is essentially, it's worked for me everywhere else it's been. I know this is the Big Ten. I know it's going to be harder, but that's not a reason to not believe we can still do it. And, I think it's almost sort of like hey, it's always worked before. Why wouldn't it work now? But I come back to something I think you and I might have discussed about a month ago. I know Robin Washut, who covers Nebraska, and I did a story talking to Robin about, he was just kind of doing like Indiana preseason stuff or Nebraska preseason stuff, of which Indiana, sort of an off-season check-in with Indiana, was part of it. And we got to talking, and he sort of said, Indiana is in kind of a similar position to Nebraska, where the schedule gets a little bit harder later in the season. But there's a feeling that if maybe they can kind of get rolling, get some non-conference wins under their belt, really kind of get moving forward in the right direction, maybe they can get the momentum to kind of do all their business early. Northwestern has a not dissimilar schedule, actually. UCLA is a little different. UCLA is interesting because UCLA did not necessarily get a lot of love from the schedule makers this year. They open with Hawaii on the 31st. Then they get the week off, which teams that go play at Hawaii week 1 or week 0, however you see that, the NCAA usually gives them a waiver to take a week off because the travel, the time change, everything is just a lot. Then they get Indiana at home, and that game is really important for them because their next 4 games after that, or even 5, given that Rutgers is, might be pretty good this year. They are at UCLA. They're home against Oregon. They are at Penn State. They are home against Minnesota, and then they are at Rutgers. So if UCLA doesn't win those first 2, Hawaii and Indiana, I mean, there's a path. Even after that, they're at Nebraska and then home to Iowa and then at Washington and home to USC. That's their whole schedule, and they play Fresno State at the very end. I mean, like there's a path to like 1-5 for UCLA. So unlike in Indiana, unlike in Nebraska, again, Northwestern schedule works a little bit this way too, where there's almost this feeling like, hey, there's some breathing room here. There's a window where if we kind of get some stuff together, we can really, take off and we can gain some momentum. And I know you and I have talked about, if Indiana can go 3-0 in the non-conference and beat Nebraska, then suddenly, or UCLA, then suddenly you're 4-0 when Maryland comes to town, and you don't know what they'll be after everything that's happened, what they've lost at the quarterback position. Then you got Northwestern in that bandbox. Then you got back-to-back home games with Nebraska and Washington. And suddenly it's like, wow, could Indiana be, could Indiana on Halloween be like 6-2 or even 7-1? UCLA is in the complete opposite position, where if they don't win those first 2 games, Hawaii in week 1 or week 0, and Indiana in week 3, I guess it's week 1, and Indiana in week 3, I mean, they could seriously be staring at 1 and whatever by Halloween. And so on the one hand, they might feel a sense of urgency. On the other hand, Indiana will have played an extra game. I think it's probably fair to guess, have won the extra game. And, UCLA might also be feeling a certain bit of pressure because they're looking at the rest of that schedule and saying, man, this could go fast in a bad direction. But the other thing I will say too is we're talking about all these teams like we know what they're going to be. We don't know what they're going to be. Right. We could be really wrong on Indiana. We could be really wrong on Nebraska. I mean, listen, let's imagine Indiana just outperforms everyone's expectations and it turns out Kurt Cignetti's a miracle worker. Yeah, there's a path to 10 wins. I'm not banking on that by any means, but when you have all these teams that have so many questions and so much turnover, Northwestern with a second-year head coach that is first year in the program as the established head coach, the weirdness of the stadium, all that. How do they handle that? Nebraska is going to be counting on a true freshman at quarterback. How do they handle that? Indiana, UCLA, Washington, all a lot of new faces, new head coaches. I think UCLA had a little bit less turnover because they hired from within, and I think that kept the roster a little bit more stable. But this idea that we can just sort of successfully diagnose or forecast what teams are going to be anymore with the portal it's just not real. It's just not true.
Yeah. And, you look at the schedule and in years past, boy, usually the schedule would start off with a game. You're like, oh, that's going to be a tough win. And then you'd always have the juggernaut of the Big Ten East. Looking at the schedule right now, you don't get to one of those games that really jumps out at you until week 10 or the 10th game of the year against Michigan. Not to say that a loss can't occur before them. At Michigan State will always be tough. Against Nebraska is going to be tough.
Going away to UCLA will be tough. Maryland, you never know, like you said. But looking at the schedule, you can always in your head say, all right, well, that's just going to be a tough game. I don't expect them to win that. If they do, it's going to be a nice upset. And maybe it's possible. Maybe it's less likely. But the fact that it's game 10 before, at least in my opinion, looking at that schedule, that you come to that conclusion, that is something that I've never seen for Indiana that I can recall.
No, I mean, that's fair. I think Indiana, we all said Indiana kind of was finally going to get free of the Big Ten East, and the schedule looked, somewhat favorable, somewhat manageable. And then they added Washington and Oregon, and suddenly everything got ripped up, and you sort of said, oh, geez, Indiana, just when it looked like they were finally sort of, free of all this, and maybe they get a little bit of that breathing room that we talked about, boom, here comes another big hit. But actually, the way the schedule's worked out, and also it should be said that the way it's kind of sequenced in terms of, when this schedule came out, when we got our first look at this, that was Kalen DeBoer's Washington. That was Mel Tucker's Michigan State. That was, maybe up to and including that was Jim Harbaugh's Michigan. We don't know. And this speaks to, again, just how quickly things can change, especially in the modern context of college football, where players have justifiably more options, more movement, more ability to sort of dictate their own kind of future in their own career. But it is kind of one of those where, your confidence level isn't necessarily defined by the team. It's defined by the schedule, but that kind of goes both ways, which is it's defined by the schedule in the sense that you look at it and you say, there's a world where this is one of the most forgiving schedules in the Big Ten. And I've noticed that I haven't seen Indiana popping up on any of the, preseason. These are the 10 worst schedules in America, or 10 toughest schedules in America, which it seemed like they were annually making those lists. But on the other hand, your uncertainty is about the schedule too, which is, what if UCLA just kind of rolls smoothly on with Deshaun Foster? What if Dylan Raiola is, an everything quarterback right away? It wouldn't be the first time we've seen a true freshman step in and have immediate success, even in this conference. What if Jed Fish gets it rolling at Washington quickly the way he needed a little more time to do it, the way he eventually got it rolling at Arizona? Well, then suddenly, maybe Indiana's looking at 4-4 or 3-5 going into November. And we said we were wrong about the team maybe a little bit, but we were also wrong about the schedule. I don't know how all this settles out, because I don't know if we can just keep doing this every offseason. We do it with basketball too, where we just keep saying, I don't know, maybe, so much has changed. Coaches leave, players leave. How good do you think this team will be? Your guess is as good as mine. It does feel in a lot of ways like we are seeing college football become more like the NFL in that regard, that you can turn your fortunes around in one off season. And the difference between a 6-11 team and an 11-6 team in the NFL usually isn't huge. It's usually a small handful of, better players, or, more favorable schedule, or, just one thing that clicks in the offense at the right time of year, whatever. It feels like we're getting there a little bit more with college football. And I think when we have these conversations, where I agree with you, you look at this schedule and, it sure feels like Michigan in week 10 is the first game that you can just kind of cross off and say, given what we know now, seems unlikely Indiana can win that game. But as I talked about before, Washington, UCLA, Nebraska, Northwestern. We haven't even talked about Maryland, which, yes, it seems like a huge hole to fill, losing Talia Tagovailoa, but they've been to bowl games, the last 2 years, last 3 years. So let's not sleep on Mike Loxley. He has something going at Maryland.
That's what the
You
portal's
know,
for.
all these fan bases are having similar conversations about Indiana because Indiana's got 46 or whatever new players and a whole new staff and is perceived anyway to be starting over. So it's going to be a fascinating season. I also think it's one where I think that the likeliest outcome might be all these teams we're talking about just kind of wind up 6-6 or something in there. And I think if you look at the conference, I think Ohio State and Oregon are up here. I think USC has the ability to join them at some point. I'm not completely convinced about that, but I think it's possible. I think Penn State also has that ability. I need to see a little more consistency from James Franklin. And then allowing for the fact that Michigan has got a first-year head coach. When you look at the way Michigan's been recruiting, the types of athletes on its roster, even though I know it just took a big hit with the NFL draft, you feel like Michigan kind of will be in that conversation as well. It feels like there is just this massive group behind those 4 or 5 that'll stick up here that I think all in various ways have legitimate playoff intentions and legitimate playoff ambitions. It feels like everybody else is just going to kind of beat up on each other. And Kurt Cignetti I'm rambling here, but Kurt Cignetti has brought up one-score games a lot since he was hired. How many he won at James Madison, how many Indiana's lost the last 2 or 3 years. I think there's a possibility where we're talking about, all these teams that we've mentioned, IU, Rutgers, Maryland, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Northwestern, UCLA, Washington, just on down the list, are all playing a lot of close games. And it's going to wind up being the teams that just have some separating ability, whether it is the ability to get a key stop late in the game, the ability to pressure a quarterback, which is obviously something that Kurt Cignetti's defenses have been good at, James Madison the last couple of years, the ability to just kind of keep scoring no matter the situation, whatever it is. The teams that have that little bit that separate themselves, I suspect, are going to be the ones that behind that main group wind up kind of filling in the good seasons, the bowls, et cetera.
Zach Osterman from the Indy Star with us now. Zach, if you've got a few minutes, there's a few other things I'd like to ask after we've got to take a break. And if not,
sure.
But we've got Zac Osterman from the Indy Star with us, and we'll be back with more right after this.
This segment is brought to you by the Fresh Fork in Bloomington.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of Wow Food Group.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at indyhomepros.com. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouth-watering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big-screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. The Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Animal Island, Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by the Fresh Fork in Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. I'm glad to have you with us, and even happier to have Zach Osterman from the Indy Star as he joins us as he does each Friday. Zach, some of the things that came up yesterday, well, I'll ask what your takeaways on Curt Cignetti was in a minute, but he was on the show with us yesterday, and one thing that was very clear without fanfare, I asked him in a break about a timeline for potentially naming a starting quarterback, and he just, without even really thinking about it, said, "Oh, I haven't even thought about that." But he also made it clear at the same time, Curtis Rourke is going to be the starter. And then in his comments on the Big Ten Network stage with the Big Ten Network folks yesterday, he virtually did the same thing without saying it in his words about Curtis Rourke, how impressed he was when he got him and all the things he's done, and that Taven Jackson has done a good job but still has things to work on. There's no question in my mind that, named or not named, that Curtis Rourke is going to be Indiana's starting quarterback, which was what I kind of thought all along anyway. But Taven Jackson, he performed well in the spring game, so I knew that there would be a challenge there. But now I think that there's with no question that Curtis Rourke will be the starter. I don't think that Curt Cignetti is going to turn that into this big whatever a lot of Indiana fans are used to under when Tom was here, of not knowing who that guy was going to be.
No, I mean, I don't think I don't think it should surprise anyone. You know, Rourke got all the snaps with the first team in the spring game. Cignetti has always talked about Rourke like he's the number one QB. You know, what he said at the podium yesterday, something like I sleep better at night knowing I got that guy in the program. He said something else during the breakout session with us that, you know, again, didn't anoint Rourke, but was very sort of like, you know, Curtis Rourke is, you know, you didn't have to read very closely between the lines, and see that, you know, hear him kind of saying like Curtis Rourke is in the driver's seat. I think is what was more interesting to me is how much more encouraged he sounds. Excuse me. About Taven Jackson, and the reason for that is, you know, very simple. And I know people probably don't want to talk about this, but, you know, I think 2018 was the last time Indiana had a quarterback that made it through the entire season without getting injured. And that's, you know, that's not uncommon. Like, I know that's certainly for programs on uneven footing like Indiana, you know, you usually need more than one. And, you know, Rourke comes with great bona fides. Obviously his time at Ohio, what he did in the MAC, you know, even you want to go as far as like he's got a brother in the NFL. Like he's, you know, he understands what quarterback play looks like at a high level. And at very least, he has proven all he needs to at the level below the Big Ten. So now it's his chance to see whether he can prove himself at the Big Ten level as well. But if you're going to need more than one, then you should be excited when you hear your head coach talking about, the player who's probably the backup at this point in Taven Jackson, and sort of say, okay, if the worst happens and Curtis Rourke does go down, it seems like the guy behind him is coming along at a good pace, compared to maybe where Cignetti thought he was, going back before spring practice or early in spring practice. So, again, that's turning the question a little bit on its side, I guess. But I do think it has the potential to be very important, frankly, very important for Indiana because, like I said, it's been 6 years now since Indiana made it through a season without its starting quarterback getting hurt. So you can't just look at that guy at the top of the depth chart and say, well, how good is he? As long as he's good, we're fine. It's got to go further than that.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. What were some of your takeaways from Kurt Cignetti's appearance at the Big Ten Media Days this year? He was on the show with us, but he also he gave his stage speech, and then he's with the Big Ten media folks, and then he does the breakout session. So you've got a lot of different opportunities of people talking and asking questions of him. And we saw basically the same Kurt Cignetti, but I don't know if there were any takeaways for you specifically.
No, I mean, it's the thing I said before, which again isn't surprising by any means. But if you've been around Cignetti at all in the off season, this has kind of been his MO. But I just think it's interesting that you kind of put him in that setting, and he just kind of said, why would we sit here and think we can't win this year? Why would, and he referenced, I think probably the stop in his career that is most sort of comparable to where he is now, which is Elon. And if folks don't know, Elon is an FCS program. It was in the Southern Conference for years, with powerhouses like Furman and Georgia Southern and Appalachian State. And, it eventually moved over to the Colonial Athletic Association, which meant it was going up against James Madison and I think William and Mary, and some of those sort of mid-Atlantic FCS powerhouse schools. Villanova might have been on its schedule. I'm not positive about that. The point is, Elon is just like a small private school in North Carolina, and it has always struggled to sort of keep its feet in football. It's had some good runs. People remember Pete Limbo, who was the head coach for a while at Ball State, but Limbo came over from Elon. But in general, it is a program of pretty modest standing and always has been. And that was the job Cignetti walked into from IU, Pennsylvania, and he won 8 games in his first season. I think they lost their first game. They tore off 8 straight wins. And then I think they lost their last 3, and I think 2 of those 3 were either by 1 score or maybe even 1 point. I know they lost their playoff game because the FCS does playoffs. They lost their playoff game 28-27. So, and then the next year they won 9 or 10 games, and that was what prompted James Madison to bring Kurt Cignetti over from Elon. The point is, that is a pretty comparable experience, and it's not at the same level, but it's the same sort of challenge relative to where you are. And Cignetti's point in referencing Elon is we didn't come in there and say, oh, well, maybe it won't happen this year, or hey, let's just, he kept spitting out the record 8-45. I believe they were 12-45, but the point still pretty much remains. They were losing about 4 out of every 5 games they played. And he just his mentality walking in was, why would we wait? Why would we, no excuses. The goal is always to win. It's silly to set the bar anywhere else. And the message was, again, very easy to parse, which is, why not do that at Indiana too? Why can't we do that? We have NIL money. We have the portal. We've had a good offseason. And he even went so far as to say near the end of his podium remarks, he said, we've got a good schedule. So, he said something like, we got 8 home games. It's a good schedule. So, his thought process is quite basic, but understandable. It's just, why not? Why not now? Why not Indiana? This has all worked before. And he really didn't waver from that. And I think, he was colorful a little bit. He dropped a few words you'd have to reach for the dump button to make sure you kept off the radio. But, that stuff just kind of like, that stuff kind of charms the media, right? Like that, that makes everybody laugh. And I thought it was interesting too, because he seemed to get a good response on day 3, and everybody seemed tired. Everybody had been there all week. You're getting talked at all week. And then he came up and just kind of sort of brash, sort of bold, making dry jokes. And I thought, like, it just kind of livened the room up a little bit. Not that really matters that much from obviously from a wins and losses perspective, but the message stayed the same, which was, there's no reason why we shouldn't be trying to win right now. He even referenced, he said 3 years is a long time in college football, but it was 3 years ago, Indiana was 1 score away from playing for a Big Ten title. And now everyone acts like Indiana is an impossible job. And he said that, those two circles just don't square. So, we'll see.
Yeah, I agree everything you said there. He is, for someone who is, and you use the word perfect, dry, he's sneaky. He's very sneaky dry, because he is very calculated in what he does, what he says. And in having Aiden Fisher and Justin Ellis and who else was on with us yesterday? Daggone it.
Mike Kadick.
What's that?
Mike Kadick.
Yes, Mike Kadick, of course. But all these guys have different stories. They're coming from different places. Mike Kadick was already here, of course. Aiden Fisher transfers in from James Madison, so he is very familiar with Curt Cignetti. And then, of course, Ellis comes from over at Wake Forest. But all of them were impressed with Curt Cignetti. And they're all here because of Curt Cignetti, and in different ways. So that to me shows that no matter how people might take him or see him, his personality, he has the ability to reach the guys that he's trying to reach the way he's trying to reach them.
No, and I mean, listen, the greatest currency in sports is winning. And I mean, I know that's simple, but how many nice guys get fired? How many coaches that have something objectionable in there? And this is all, I'm not suggesting Curt Cignetti is objectionable. I'm just saying, like, across all sports, constant for guys who or women, not just men, but women who attract top talent, who are consistently competitive, whatever it is, they win. They prove they can win. And so winning follows, success follows them. It shouldn't be surprising that, people kind of, they laugh or they chuckle or they smirk or they roll their eyes or whatever your reaction is when Curt Cignetti says something like Google me. But his point is really simple. It's just like, everywhere I've been, I've won. And, if he's selling this to, for example, Justice Ellison, who had played 4 years at Wake Forest, was probably about 22 years old. Well, Curt Cignetti can say, you were 9 the last time that I wasn't the head coach of a team that finished with a winning season.
Switching topics a little bit, Indiana does not play Penn State this year. Tom Allen, the former coach, now the defensive coordinator at Penn State, they're coming off of a year in which their defense was spectacular, one of the best in the country. How much pressure is on Tom Allen to keep that going? Because there's always some pressure, it seems, on James Franklin.
Yeah, I mean, it is. First of all, there will always be pressure in a job like that. Second of all, I think you're right about the questions about Franklin, in the sense that it's always felt like he's led Penn State all the way up to the water's edge and never been able to kind of get them in the way that obviously Michigan has, Ohio State has it. it is worth saying, expanded playoff. The Big Ten and the SEC are both probably going to be well represented there because we're just at a point now where these conferences have consolidated so much of the competitive wealth, if you want to use that phrase, in college football that, like, if you're in the Big 12, you can have a great season, but who are you playing? Whereas if you're in the Big 10 and you win 10 games, you're probably just automatically in the playoffs simply because across those 10 wins, you surely will have to have beaten some good teams. So, there will always be a pressure on Allen. There does seem to be perpetual pressure on James Franklin. But Penn State is also one of those programs that, particularly if Allen can kind of continue that, and he'll do it his way, it'll be a little different, and that's fine. Every coordinator should get the leash to put their own kind of stamp on things. But as long as Penn State stays relatively where it's been the last few years, they've got a decent shot at making the playoff. And then from there, it's sort of like, well, who knows what happens? You get in the playoff and suddenly you win your first game, you're in a semifinal, boom, boom, boom. Suddenly everything looks a little better. And obviously this is where the college football playoff is beginning to resemble the NCAA tournament just a little bit more in that dynamic because, you all it takes is kind of one good weekend and you can turn a season from, I guess it was a good year. We won 9 games, won 10 games, could have done better. All it takes is one win in the playoff, and suddenly it's a great season. Suddenly it's the best season. It's the closest you've come to a national title in how many years. And so Penn State in general, and this applies obviously strongly to Tom Allen, is one of these programs that I'm looking at, just kind of wondering, in a 12-team playoff era, does their calculus change? Does the perception around them change? Because suddenly they might be a slightly different proposition.
Last thing, I know we've got to let you go so you can get on with your day, get your weekend started as well. Indiana picked finish 17th and right in front of Purdue. I'm fairly certain after Kurt Cignetti kind of mentioning that does not sit well with Cignetti. He said, I remember that he has been picked to finish like last or next to last twice in his career. And I think he won the league both times. So that is not something that's not lost upon him.
No, yeah. So he was picked next to last at Elon, I think that first year possibly. And that was the year that he got them to the playoffs. I think they won 2 games the year before. And then, if I'm not mistaken, the other year he was referring to was when they were picked to their first year in the Sun Belt when JMU came up from the FCS, and I think they were picked second to last that year. And obviously, both years both years that JMU was in the Sun Belt, at very least, they won their division. They weren't allowed to play in the postseason because of rules about moving up.
Stupid NCAA rule, yeah.
The point is, I mean, it just sort of leaned further into this message he had, which was just sort of like, I've done this before. I'm telling you, I can do it again. He said multiple times, and he said it again yesterday. The way these media days work is we hear the stuff we've been hearing for 8 months. The conference hears it for the first time. And it's like, wow, that guy's bold. That guy's going to take some risks or whatever. And it's sort of like, yeah, this has just been his message from day one. One of the things we've heard, so often is him talking about this background of, everywhere I've gone, we've turned it around quickly. Everywhere I've gone, we've outperformed expectations. And I came to Indiana because it seemed like a challenge that was familiar to me, which he said again yesterday, which is I came to a place where, it wasn't necessarily going to be easy. I was going to have to fight for it a little bit, but I chose that challenge because I think I know how to do it now because of obviously the success that he's had in other places. And again, it's very consistent messaging, and it's not been lost on his players. I know I talked very briefly with Mike Kadick yesterday, and he said from those first team meetings, players were looking around at each other, and Cignetti was blunt with him. He said, if you can't help us, this is what we're trying to do, and if we feel like you can't help us, we're probably just going to move on. But Kadick said the flip side was that empowered all of us because he wasn't coming in and saying this is going to take some time and there's a huge culture shift and, all of you need to leave and I need to replace you with my guys. He was coming in and saying, listen, I know how to do this. And if you work hard and do what I ask of you, it'll happen. And I think that's empowered Indiana's roster to feel like, well, if this guy thinks we can win right away, then why can't we win right away? Because everywhere else he's been, everything else he's done, this process has worked. So why wouldn't it work now?
Zac Osterman from the Indy Star, IU beat writer, tons of content there. Make sure you are giving him a follow and following with the content. Be a subscriber. Keep local papers alive. Zach, I cannot thank you enough as always.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Jim.
Thank you, sir. We've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and we will be back with it right after this. Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off of your first order.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at indyhomepros.com. In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. Hope you had a great week and are ready for the weekend. I know that I am looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to doing a whole lot of nothing. Tired. But yes, a little more on Curt Cignetti. I don't know if you saw, Indiana will not have captains under Curt Cignetti. That is not something that he has done in the past, and for the first time since 1952, according to IU Media Relations, that Indiana will not have football captains. It's something he said he's just never done, never chosen captains ever He said it up at Oil Stadium. I put guys out in front of flex, and then when we are done, they say something to the team before practice, then we practice. That might be the same 3 guys. It might be 7 guys in a rotation. That's just the way I've done it. So I guess not captains per se, but leaders. Leadership is very important. He said he leaned on many JMU players that joined him from JMU in Bloomington to take on some of those responsibilities early on in spring camp. According to Signetti, I would never want to choose captains early in the year, and the guy turns out to be not what you thought he was going to be, and then you've got a problem. Captain is a nice term used a while back. To me, it's more important to have a lot of good leaders. So again, Signetti just has a lot of different ways of doing things, and not bad, just different than from what most of us are accustomed to. And then looking forward to IU's game up in Evanston, Illinois, as they'll take on Northwestern. The stadium is basically a soccer stadium right next to the lake. Their football field was torn down. It's gone, and they won't have a football field again until the 2026 season. So, but it should be a great venue if there's room to watch the game. I think 18,000 fans, it looks like. Nope. 15,000 looks like. So their coach is used to that. He was at North Dakota State where they had 18,000 fans. But it's going to be unique. Literally right next to the lake. And when I say next to it, I mean you could walk out of your seat and walk down to the lakeside within less than 100 feet, it looks like. So that'll be interesting and something different. Did you see the gigantic duck on the White River? Oregon, of course, doing what they do, making a splash, no pun intended. And Rutgers football coach Greg Schiano was excited to hear that Curt Cignetti was joining the Big Ten after Indiana hired the former JMU coach. Schiano only knows Cignetti in passing, but he's familiar with the family's long history in college football, dating back to Frank's and Cignetti Sr.'s time as an assistant on Bobby Bowden's staff at West Virginia. So, and Rutgers under Greg Schiano, another team that's going to be just like with Big Ten basketball. I think that there's going to be a lot of parity. There's going to be a ton of parity in the Big Ten football, with the exception of Ohio State and Oregon, who are probably separate from everyone else at this moment. But below that, Zach actually said it. There's just this big hodgepodge of teams that right now, especially right now, we don't know. But can Michigan State rise up? What's Nebraska going to be like under Matt Rule with a true freshman quarterback? Jed Fish at Washington with a brand new team. You know, we exhaustively talked about UCLA. Maryland, while they don't have turnover at the coaching ranks, they're not going to have Mr. Tagovailoa at quarterback, which they have been graced with for the last few years. So not only is there parity, but I think this is the greatest opportunity in a long time for Indiana to have that success. So it's everything is just different now. And oh my gosh, what fun is it going to be like to have these different teams be good? Indiana, what can Purdue get done? But Nebraska, man, the Big Ten doesn't need Nebraska to be good per se, but I think college football needs Nebraska to be good. It's like college basketball needs Indiana to be good. There are just certain programs. It's still it's been shown over and over. People like the big names, and there's especially a comeback. And both Nebraska and Indiana in those two different sports would be seen as kind of a comeback after not having really had a ton of success over the last several years in programs that have been so powerful. But I think that Indiana basketball is more likely to return as a power than Nebraska is as football this year. Although I still think Nebraska could take a step up, but the big question is going to be the fact that they're running a true freshman quarterback, which, hey, sometimes you get the great ones. I just don't know that Nebraska landed the one, but we'll see. Heath says, what did he? I just lost it. That's my own comment. I don't know where it went to, but I was pulling up that comment. But yeah, so finally a weekend where there's just not a ton of things that we have to do, but that's coming off of Big Ten football media days. I mean, last week it was NASCAR. The weekend before that, it was the 3SSB stuff going on. And in between that, you had the Peach Jam. Holy smokes, it's been one thing after another. This is going to be a pleasant weekend. I'm looking forward to it. There's plenty of stuff to watch on TV, don't get me wrong, but that's what I'm going to be doing a lot of, checking it out. From bedside, baby, get some rest. It has been, someone asked me yesterday, is it the slow part of our season? And I'm like, well, it used to be that when the college basketball tournament ended, you got to take somewhat of a break, but that's no more because it was busier after the season with the portal. And then you move into the AAU circuit and recruiting just takes off. And so, man, I'm grateful for this time coming up. We'll be able to just talk to you more about things that maybe we don't get to talk about so much. Ross says maybe the toxins in the White River melted that duck. I don't know. We'll see. 5 less, he played with Notre Dame versus IU on the new college football game on the freshman level, and he won 101-3. Woo! I've seen a lot of people talking about that new game. A lot of people are enjoying that. I've never been a player of video games, but maybe I should try it just for the heck of it. I know a lot of people get a lot of enjoyment out of it. Maybe I should try that. But and a lot of talk because the college football guys are getting $600 a piece for opting in to the EA Sports stuff. So you got that going on. Tonight, Ryan says the opening ceremonies on the River Seine or Sewer in Paris tonight. Yeah, a lot of stuff's been going on over there too, man. That's crazy. They had arson on a train. Didn't they also have some technical IT saboteur, some sabotagery going on? Come on, man. We've already had some scandals before the Olympics get started with Canada spying with a drone. Something else happened. It's just crazy. That's all you got to do, man. 5 less says he goes for it on every possession when he's playing. But yeah, the Olympics starting tonight with the opening ceremonies. Looking forward to seeing that. All the pomp and circumstance, and hopefully things go off okay and there's no more problems with people trying to intervene in various ways. Let's hope that everything stays safe. What are your favorite Olympic sports to watch? Of course, the Americans are expected to pull in what I believe is their 8th straight gymnastics team title. You got Simone Biles going at it. Of course, Team USA basketball, which I'm going to imagine they were kind of sleepwalking through part of the pre-Olympic play, and they'll get things together and get their heads straight to not be knocked off for that gold medal. But we shall see. Swimming, Lily King and a ton of former IU athletes and Big Ten athletes, all alike, will be competing. But this is the final Olympics for Lily King, by the way. So she's looking to enjoy that. I think she'll still be wearing her IU cap that she likes to wear, but she still holds the record in the 100-meter breaststroke for the Olympic Games, by the way. So that's a pretty cool deal. So let's all pull for Lily King and the rest of the IU swimmers and divers. And I think there's one track member there and then a numerous number of Big Ten members. They had those on the big board yesterday at Lucas Oil Stadium. Tana says he likes the track and field stuff more, javelin, shot put, and all of that. Yep. Five Lamps is looking forward to bracket breakdancing. I don't know where that one came from. Have at it, man. That's too much for me to work in. Too much excitement for me this weekend. Women's soccer was interesting. 3-0 win over Zambia. So there you go. 400-meter dash. Robert likes track. The luge. Of course, that's in the wintertime, Tanis, so you're going to have to wait for that. The marathon is cool. Oh, man, the marathon's hot. That's too much heat for me. The 100-meter dash, yes, that is always a fast event. So, but, man, I cannot thank everybody enough. As always, without you, we have no reason to be here. Thanks to Patrick Wooley from thehoosier.com for joining us on the program today, as well as Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. Looking forward to being back on Monday with each and every one of you and our normal lineup. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.